Our next company is Cellphire. Cellphire is a clinical stage cell therapeutics company harnessing the power of platelets, disrupting the process for blood transfusions and more by creating long-term stabilization. And in a minute, we're going to hear from Dann of Cellphire, the CEO and founder of Cellphire. Welcome, Tom.
My name is Dann. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Cellphire, and I'd like to share with you today how Cellphire is solving a very big problem in medicine. We are a 50-person company located in Rockville, Maryland. We're unique in that we have garnered over $125 million in non-dilutive government funding to take us all the way through clinical trials on our product roadmap. Our lead product, Thrombosomes, is already in phase 2 clinical trials. We have a commercial product currently available in the veterinary market. We are raising a $3 million bridge round out in advance of a $30 million institutional round to fund expansion of manufacturing and to address some of the market opportunities that the government is not funding. Just a brief word about platelets. So platelets are the cells in our bloodstream that maintain the integrity of our entire vascular system. It's how you stop bleeding, and people get an infusion of platelets about once every 15 to 17 seconds in this country to stop traumatic bleeding, which is the greatest source of preventable death among people under 45 years of age, and the greatest source of death on the battlefield. The problem with platelets is that in order to maintain their functionality, they have to be kept at room temperature. It's like keeping hamburger outside the refrigerator, which goes bad after a few days. As a result, platelets have to be discarded after 5 days. They only have a 5-day shelf life. The longer they're out of the body, the slower they are to activate and to actually stop bleeding, up to 24 hours to be fully activated. There's a high risk of contamination even for platelets less than 5 days old. They're very inconsistent in terms of the quality of the platelets. They're just not available in many places because of that very short shelf life. Certainly not for first responders and not in over 50% of hospitals. Also, they're like the canary in the coal mine for the entire blood supply. We rely on voluntary donors for all of our blood products, including platelets. The least thing that disrupts people getting in their car and driving to a collection center will result almost immediately in a shortage of platelets. Cellphire has developed a solution to this problem. We have developed a technology to be able to take live platelets, infuse them with a complex sugar, freeze dry them into a powder that can sit at room temperature for up to 3 years, and then be reactivated simply by rehydrating them. They come back to life, you infuse them to the patient, and they immediately stop bleeding. Thrombosomes will stop bleeding faster than regular platelets because they're fully activated. They've got that 3-year shelf life versus 5 days, which is a game changer in medicine. They have much lower infectious risk because of the freeze-drying process. It's a much more consistent product. Doctors don't have to change their basic workflow because the thrombosomes are administered to the patient the same way regular platelets would be. And from the business perspective, a key factor is that we get 5 to 10 doses of thrombosomes from every unit of platelets. So that results in a gross profit margin of between 60 and 70%, but it also results in a significant effective expansion of the platelet supply. So we're able to address multiple billion-dollar markets, but I want to just focus you on one of those, and that's the radiation sickness that you see down there in the corner, because it is strategically important to us. We will have a 100% share of that market because we are solving a very big problem for the federal government, and it's the key to our capital efficiency. The federal government has given us $85 million to take thrombosomes all the way through clinical trials, and then they want to stock them in the strategic national stockpile, which translates for us into an annual recurring revenue stream of greater than $100 million, plus significant international sales. Now, the important thing is that this is actually not our core business. We view this non-dilutive funding from and the stockpile revenues from the government as being really more like a financing transaction that will get us to those large commercial markets that I just mentioned. So the federal government is funding the foundational building out of our entire pipeline, which you see here. Everything there has been advanced based on government funding. We're raising additional capital to take some of the indications that are outside of what the government's funding, all the way through to commercial markets. But it has been a huge benefit to us that we've had so much non-dilutive funding for the government. So we think that at the point where we get the first significant stockpile orders, that the company will go into play because there are a number of large acquirers that are already focused on the platelet problem. We also think that as early as the first half of 2022 that we would have the option of an IPO. So that's a quick overview of Cellphire. Thank you very much for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions offline.